Hi, my name is Varun and welcome to episode 4 in Decoding the Bhagavad Gita. Now in this episode, we officially commence the Bhagavad Gita series. Now before we proceed to chapter 1, we first need to understand what is the structure of the Bhagavad Gita. As I mentioned in my earlier video, Bhagavad Gita consists of 18 chapters which are divided into 3 parts of 6 chapters each. The first 6 chapters, known as Path of Action, talk about how we need to perform our duties as a person regardless of the nature of our work. The second 6 chapters, known as Path of Devotion, talk about how we need to improve our concentration and eradicate or eliminate distraction. The final 6 chapters, known as Path of Knowledge, talk about how we need to know about ourselves as a person and how we need to understand the nature of life and how eventually both nature and individual go hand in hand together. Now these 3 parts, known as Path of Action, Path of Devotion and Path of Knowledge, constitute the 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. Now what I just told you about these 3 parts is just a small preview, and it is better not to look too much into it as the Bhagavad Gita goes about these 3 parts in detail as we go verse by verse. Speaking about verse by verse, there are a lot of people who actually think, not a lot, but quite a few people who actually think that not all the 700 verses have something to offer in the same way as some of the superior verses in the Bhagavad Gita. To that, a wise man once said that just like how every matchstick in a matchbox has the ability to spark fire, similarly, each and every verse in the 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita has the ability to spark the fire of wisdom only if we aspire to attain the true meaning of it. So, without any further ado, let's proceed to verse 1 from chapter 1. Now in the first verse in the first chapter, the entire verse talks about Dhritarashtra, the blind king, and how because of his blindness he couldn't take part in the war, and hence he asked his chariot driver Sanjaya what are the happenings on the battlefield. So here, Dhritarashtra, being the father of Kauravas, actually is the only person who could stop the war from happening. He is the only person who could prevent the war. However, he chooses not to. And why is that? Though Dhritarashtra is visually blind, his eye of wisdom is further blinded because of the fleet of emotions that he has. So what is this eye of wisdom? Eye of wisdom is the ability to determine right or wrong without letting your emotions get in the way. And the key word here is emotions. As this verse denotes, when you take decisions based on emotional or feelings or any of such things, you discriminate the difference between right and wrong, and rather you focus on only how you can satisfy one's own emotion. So here, Dhritarashtra, before deciding what happens in the war, has a fleet of emotion that comes to him. At first he has this pride and greed that all this wealth and possession and the kingdom belongs only to the Kauravas and not even to the Pandavas, and hence this is what actually brought the war around. But one of the main things that brought the war around is because Dhritarashtra couldn't prevent it because he wanted his sons. The word his is important. The possession of his sons to be on the throne and nobody else. His blind affection is one of the main reasons that brought the war around, and he couldn't do anything to prevent it. He was totally blind by his emotions, and hence his eye of wisdom was closed. Now there are a lot of interesting analogies that I can draw based on this very situation of Dhritarashtra. However, there is not going to be a single interesting analogy that is going to resonate with us on a deeper level, none other than you and me. When we self-introspect ourselves, have we attained the eye of wisdom, or are we blinded by our emotions? That is exactly the question that this first verse from the first chapter is asking us. So always remember, guys, it will lead the way, and all you have to do is free your mind. So this is episode number 4, and until the next episode, it is goodbye.